So why did Lori think that she could get away with taking the lives of her own children?
Turn out the lights. The party's over. Lori. So, any other questions?
How is it that Lori Vallow would believe no one would notice that her children were not around? It's September 24th of 2019. It's Tylee Ryan's birthday. There are several people that reach out to say, "Happy birthday, Tylee." One of those people are Colby Ryan, her brother. Colby Ryan said the last time that he saw Tylee was at the end of August. He was having difficulty getting Tylee to call him. He could only reach her by text. His text seemed kind of odd to him, but he really didn't think much about it at the time. Later, he said, as he looked back through the text, they just didn't seem like his sister. It was evident that Colby didn't suspect that his mom and his uncle were capable of doing anything to the kids, so probably wasn't a big red flag at the time. Yes, Charles Vallow tried to tell Colby and everyone else in the family that Lori was having a mental breakdown, something was wrong with her. He even said that she was planning to kill him, but most people kind of laughed that off as ridiculous. There was no way Colby could understand or even have an idea that his own mother had taken part in the disappearance of his siblings. He had no clue that they had unalived someone or the people he loved most, which is kind of shocking to many people considering what happened to Charles not long ago. He had lived with Charles his entire life and had never seen this dark side Lori was portraying. Tylee and JJ sat alone in shallow graves on Chad's property, without a funeral, without goodbyes, without everything. But we do know that Colby knew a few more things that he's not really shared with the public that he and his mother kind of talked about. They were pretty close. Colby also knew Lori had planned to remarry just weeks after his dad was murdered. But what we learned from Colby is at the time, he doesn't really read that much into it. Lori didn't tell her own son when she was going to get married and to who. And according to Colby, he stayed back in Arizona with his wife and new baby. And he said he didn't know at the time where his mom and siblings moved to. And this is because Lori told him it was too dangerous to say. Colby, I'm not too certain if he recognized Charles was this great father until it was too late. Something we learned was Colby and his sister, they both struggled with depression. They both struggled getting through school. And I'm pretty certain around this time, right before Tylee was murdered and, Colby really understood what was going on, they probably were very confused of how Lori was applying godly values. And I'm pretty sure it probably got worse over time. We do know that Lori felt that she had a closer connection with Colby Ryan. She even had mentioned the fact that they had the same vibrations, the same energy. But Colby said that his mom didn't really mention premortal lives, but that's something Lori claims wasn't true. So many of us are wondering, how did family members feel about Alex Cox? While Colby seemed to dislike his uncle quite a bit, described him as odd, crude, funny, and odd. Now, we've heard different versions as to when Alex Cox started coming around. According to Colby Ryan, his uncle started coming around and hanging around a bit more after he got married back in 2018. And something Colby had beat into his head is his mom spent her whole entire life protecting them. And here's the sad part. I don't think he realized that Lori was not one that was really capable of caring about anyone other than herself. So what's odd is Tylee's close friend, who were nearly inseparable, They're kind of losing touch with each other. And by the time her life is taken, well, friends kind of feel probably most likely they're being ghosted. I mentioned this in several podcasts before that Lori was running very low on finances during this time, and well, how is she going to continue living this crazy lifestyle, flying where she wanted to go, when she wanted to go? I always see this as kind of odd, where she's running herself low on money. She's not thinking how she needs to spend it, and the fact that she's running low. She seems to think that somewhere, somehow, magic's going to appear magically. She also seemed to think that other people's money was her money. Melanie Boudreaux, her niece, who had just gotten, well, she's going through that divorce with Brandon Boudreaux, had just gotten a lump sum, as we had mentioned before, of money. But Lori and her brother Alex, and possibly even Melanie Boudreaux, were planning another murder. Whose murder were they planning next? Well, there were several people, Brandon Boudreaux being one of the top ones. Now, who is closest to this family? Well, Lori and Alex. Chad Daybell, he's not, he has no ties to this family other than Lori and Alex. There's no doubt Lori Vallow began lining up her ducks after they murdered her son. We know that she and Melanie Gibb come up with several excuses to give as to why JJ was not around. Here's the thing is, Lori Vallow wasn't just lying to the people outside of her cult. Supposedly, according to Melanie Gibb, she was pretending and lying to her too. Remember when she said that she believed Lori was going to send JJ to K? Well, Lori never sent JJ to K, and JJ was never coming back. Lori had lied to the nanny. She lied to everyone around her, her family members. Lori was talking to the nanny, who was eager for some reason, even after what she went through the first time babysitting JJ, to continue babysitting JJ. She basically promised this nanny that she could babysit JJ again once he returned back to Idaho from Louisiana, which was a complete lie. He couldn't return back because he was 6 feet under. We also learned on September 24th that Lori had contacted Kennedy Elementary School and lied to them. Well, Lori told the school that she planned to homeschool JJ and that she was going to be sending him with his grandmother for a while. She never actually filed to homeschool JJ. And so, just so you know, Lori had not let Kay see or talk to JJ since August. Lori was controlling this narrative. She was overconfident and thought she could get away with all these lies. Once you understand that, suddenly, all these Joseph Ryan accusations we talked about at the beginning of the series starts to make sense. Remember when Joseph Ryan said or accused Lori of brainwashing Tylee, alienating her, creating emergencies so he couldn't spend time with her? Definitely. Lori had a very long history of feeding off the pain and destruction, especially of those surrounding her, her own family members. And this has been since at least 2006, 2007. I think it's in 2007 documents. One of the professionals that were dealing with this family pleaded that they needed help to save the children from Lori because she had constant drama, tension, fighting, and it was affecting her children, especially Tylee Ryan. So it was odd that she specifically named Tylee Ryan as being one of the kids out of the two that seemed to be dealing with the most pain. You had Tylee learning at no choice of her own, how to attack people, especially those that weren't doing what you wanted or you find as a threat to you. So this is when opposite day started for Lori many, many years ago. She was accusing other people of the things she was doing. And it's way back then. You can, follow the breadcrumbs. Way back then, she had no care for how these things were affecting her children. So Mary Fogel, which is one of those professionals dealing with this case, felt hopeless at her job to protect Tylee from her mother and possibly even her father because she wasn't certain. She was starting to understand Lori was most likely the core problem. But she says, she gives us hints that Tylee should have been taken away from that family altogether. And it seemed that Mary understood that the woman she was dealing with, Lori Ryan at the time, would do anything in order to win. She also suggested Tylee needed a stronger child advocate with the ability to take legal action. Again, it just appeared to me that Lori never really cared about Tylee's well-being, not once in her lifetime. And sometimes I wonder if Tylee Ryan was the family punching bag. Everything Lori touched turned to crap. Her life ambition was to hurt people, make life as difficult as possible, even if it cost her kids or the last bit of money she had in her pocket. So many people think, and it is a tragedy, that Tylee was gone. But sometimes I have wondered, was this freeing for her, considering the torment she had gone through her entire life under her mother's care? And was JJ going through the same thing? A mother tormenting her children instead of holding them, protecting them. She was a child's worst nightmare. The sad part about this is Mary Fogel said, seemingly Tylee has grown accustomed to adults who are highly upset and accustomed to police officers, basically being at their house or in their life, including bodyguards at the age of 5. So again, remember when we heard Lori Vallow was a great mother until she wasn't, until she met Chad Daybell. Well, this is stemming back to the early 2000s. So she was already doing this years and years and years before she ever met Chad Daybell. And according to the Cox family, they claim Lori was a great mom. So keep that. We need to refresh and remind everyone that these problems with Lori stem way back. They're not just happening because of Chad Daybell. So it seems that Lori Vallow has her murder child's phone with her. People are responding to Tylee or reaching out to Tylee. Tylee's not there to respond, yet there's responses from Tylee's phone. Now, according to Summer Shiflett, Tylee's aunt, Lori's sister, she had reached out to tell Tylee happy birthday, and she did so through text. She claims that Tylee did respond back to her that day. But we all know the truth that it wasn't Tylee, but in fact her mother, who was using her phone to reply to people reaching out to her daughter. We know that Chad, Lori, and Alex were using burner phones to try and hide their evil secrets, but unfortunately, using the iCloud accounts cancel out the attempt to outsmart police. And the fact that what we know about Tylee when she was murdered on September 8th and 9th, her remains were burned in the fire pit of Chad's yard. And this is the same fire pit, according to Tammy Daybell's sister, that the family would sit around and roast marshmallows and share family stories. Zulema has really gotten close to Lori around this time. And during Lori Vallow's trial, Miss Smith, the prosecutor in the case, one of my favorite prosecutors, like several prosecutors, asked Zulema a few interesting questions. So one of the questions that the prosecutor asked Zulema is, what was her purpose for moving to Idaho? And she responded with, well, that's where her mission was taking her. She had a mission to fulfill. So you got to remember, it's during this time, Lori's running out of money and she's waiting on the check to come in for JJ. She's taken her daughter's money that she was receiving. But in court, Zulema gives us an idea of how Lori was handling finances and what her plans were.
Did you ever have do you know how Ms. Vallow was going to pay for things in Rexburg? How she was going to finance things?
When I asked her how she was going to finance, how she was going to live, since she didn't have a job, she told me that she was receiving Social Security from Tylee, from her dad passing away before the age of 18. JJ was receiving Social Security from his dad dying, and since she had been married for over 10 years to Charleston, she will also receive Social Security. And she said that it was something close to $6,000 a month, and she didn't need to work.
And so did she in fact move, and did Alex move to Rexburg?
Yes.
Did you go visit them in September of 2019?
I did.
Okay. Where did you go stay?
Now here's a big hint I always wondered about. The fact that Lori stayed married to Charles for as long as she did. She understood that there was a time limit you had to hit in order to receive a Social Security payment from Charles after he was murdered. And I don't think people realize how much I believe Lori had put into planning everything, planning out the money she would receive, what she needed to do in order to receive it. And if you look at it that way, you can notice that most likely you can see Lori even in this darker light. Interestingly, it seemed that Lori had no plans to work, not at all. She just wanted magic money. Money that just fell into her pockets without having to put out service. Even worse, Zulema did go in September as well to stay with Alex Cox, Lori's brother. So she was there visiting for a period in September when all this is going on. She talked to Lori, asked her questions about where Tylee was.
I did.
Okay. Where did you go stay?
I stayed in Alex's apartment.
Okay. And was Alex living with Lori, or was Alex living on his own?
Alex had his own apartment.
Okay. So you stayed at Alex's apartment. Where did Lori stay?
Lori was in her apartment.
Okay. When you visited, did you see Tylee at all?
No.
Okay. Did you ask where Tylee was?
Yes.
And what did Lori tell you about where Tylee was?
She said she had to be free.
When she said who is she?
Tylee.
Okay. And who said this to you? Was that what Lori said, that Tylee had to be free?
Correct.
Okay. Did she say where she was staying? Where Tylee was actually staying?
When I tried to ask her what she meant by that, she lifted her hand and put it up to my face and said, "Don't ask."
All right. Now, when you were there, after she talked, did you ask about JJ as well after she talked about Tylee like that?
JJ was there.
Okay. What was JJ doing?
He was playing outside with his neighbor friends.
All right. And did Lori say anything about how JJ was handling being in Rexburg?
She said that he had some toiletry issues since they had moved.
Okay. Did she say anything about JJ being attacked by demons?
She said that she started saying that before they moved to before they moved to Rexburg.
Okay, so she had told you prior to the move to Rexburg that JJ too was being attacked by demons.
Correct.
Okay, what did she say about whether Tylee was being attacked by demons or evil spirits?
Right before she moved to Rexburg, she said that Tylee had been possessed by evil spirit or a demon, and she called it Hillary.
Okay, so I don't know about you guys. So I've thought about this, could Zelima just be this innocent person? Well, firstly, if you were friends with somebody and they were calling their children demons, zombies, that would set off a red flag. I don't think this is somebody you would want to consider being friends with much longer. But that's not how that goes with Zelima. Instead, it draws her closer to the family. Very close, as you'll see in the near future. Zelima really seems to enjoy hanging out with Lori and her brother. And she doesn't have a problem going with these fantasy ideas. In fact, she believes that she has these magical powers. And that makes her feel special in this world, because how many people do you know that can call on earthquakes or weather or make predictions? Oddly, Lori had a huge support system for these odd teachings and beliefs, and Melanie Gibb was one of those people. In fact, Melanie Gibb was told multiple times that Lori's family, people like her mother, her father, her sister, her brother, Adam, were working against her. This is important because later on, Melanie Gibb will try to separate herself from how close she was to Lori, her brother, Chad, in this cult. According to Lori, Melanie had been very much informed about Kay's darkness, about the darkness of her children and her entire family. She was looking on her PC and at her emails, something Melanie Gibb will claim she had nothing to do with. In fact, according to testimony later, they claimed, Lori said, and Chad, there were zombies everywhere. Their main goal on this earth was to get rid of these zombies. What does that mean? Well, if you look at Charles, you look at JJ, and you look at Tylee, as far as we are, at least in this timeline, it looks very devious. It's during this time and timeline that Lori deems Kay Woodcock the darkest in her life. She's a zombie.
Yeah, I mean, it's a ridiculous thing for them to be working with Kay to find me. There's nothing that's gone on that's, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're working with her in some dark capacity. The police are working with her in some dark capacity. There's no reason for them to be after me in the first place.
So this is a later recording, as I mentioned before. But it gives you an idea of how far Lori goes with her lies and how Melanie Gibb is pretending that she wasn't as involved with this as we think. Melanie Gibb asked Lori, is Kay dark?
In the first place. Has she threatened you at all? Yes, lots of times. What did she say? It's in emails and everything.
Anyway, Lori claims that Melanie Gibb spent time with her reading those emails from Kay, and that Melanie Gibb more than understood that these were threatening emails to Lori, which made her think that JJ would be in danger if he had anything to do with Kay, which was false. It was just a narrative to build to make an excuse so that Kay didn't know where JJ was or what they were doing, and that the fact that he was now deceased. According to Chad, both he and Lori are misunderstood souls. Misunderstood souls that think alike, that had finally found each other and found their best friend. And at this point in the timeline, there is no one that Lori hasn't lied to. In this part of the timeline, most people that are communicating with this cult are communicating with Lori, not Chad. During this part of the timeline, Tammy Daybell is at home. I'm sure she's starting to figure that something's not right with Chad, but we don't understand how much she understood about that. Tammy didn't confide in people, and we don't know why she didn't. Was it because her husband told her not to? So a lot of things that were going on in her life during this time, finances were not doing so great. Her husband's been kind of acting strange, going away for periods of time, having an affair, and she had to deal with it alone. So I'm going to end it here because it's hard to upload these. It takes hours. And we're going to go into the next part of the series here quite quickly. And I might just do the audio, which means I'll just throw up random pictures and tell the story. If you are interested in this channel and you like the work that I do, make sure that you share it, tell people about it, push the like button, and comment. The algorithm's really strange, and I just would, and I do appreciate those things that y'all, most of you that have been here for 5 years now, have done each and every time I upload. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. You guys know I love you. And before we go, as always, we want to focus on a face that their story hasn't found any answers or any justice yet. People like Jasmine Robinson. Make sure you tell her story today on your social media. Love you guys, and I'll see you guys soon.